Friends, warm welcome to Dr. Zia Ahmed YouTube channel. Today we are once again on the series of lectures on the chapters of the novel 1984 written by George Orwell. And as I told you last time, we are on part 2 of this novel, of which one chapter or second chapter have been done, third chapter has been done, and now we shall be proceeding towards our next chapter, which may be chapter number 5, that we shall be trying to look into what this chapter says and what kind of information we can have out of that. This novel is about a totalitarian state, which is fictional state, which has been shown in this novel, and the title of the state is going to be Oceania. It's being ruled by, a dictator which is called Big Brother, and Big Brother's whole policy is to make himself as powerful as possible. And he is being opposed by one character, which is Goldstein. And in that way, the 4 chapters we have covered already, and now we shall be talking again on chapter number 5. Chapter number 5 opens with again something which is heinous, which is dreadful. Let me read this paragraph for you people. Siam had vanished. A morning came and he was missing from work. A few thoughtless people commented on his absence. On the next day, nobody mentioned him. On the third day, Winston went into the vestibules of a record department to look at the notice board. One of the notices carried a printed list of the members of chess committee, of whom Syme had been one. It looked almost exactly as it had looked before. Nothing had been crossed out, but the I'm sorry, but it was one name shorter. It was enough. Syme had ceased to exist. He had never existed. In some last chapter, if my audience remembers, Winston Smith had talked about Syme, who was his friend. He was extra clever and intelligent, as well ever introducing innovations. In such a state, which is dictatorial state or which is fearful state or an institution, in the world it has been seen that these people, after the few things which they do very good, they are disappeared. And in the state which is here fictional state, we see that the people are vaporized, and the same thing happens with Siam, that he is vaporized, he is no more available. And the proof is given by Winston Smith to us, that he looks at the names of the people in the chess committee. In that committee, first Syme's name was there, but now Syme's name was disappearing. So in this way, the prophecy of Winston Smith proved very right, that he was clever, he was intelligent, and therefore he will be punished in that way. And as a result, the true record has come forward, the true kind of fulfillment of prophecy by Winston Smith has come. So in that such a state, how people disappear, that is being shown here. And same is the case with the second passage that is colored here. It says the preparation for hate week were in full swing, and the staff of all ministries were working overtime. Procession, meeting, military parades, lectures, waxworks displays, film shows, telescreen programs were all organized. Stands had to be erected, effigies built, slogans coined, songs written, rumors circulated, photographs faked. Julia's unit and fiction department had been taken off the production of the novels and was rushing out a series of atrocity pamphlets. So, as we already know, that Hate Week is celebrated, and during that week, hate is shown for the enemy, and therefore the preparation is going on. That's not important paragraph, because we know all that this type of preparation is done anywhere in such type of celebration. For example, parades, meetings, processions, waxworks, lectures, film shows, telescreen program. All these things are normal routine in the world now. So in that way, the novel is futuristic because it talks in 1940s about the things which possibly might be happening in 2025. So this is the situation that we are coming across. And in these preparations, this becomes very important. Let's have a reading of this underlined paragraph. A new poster had suddenly appeared all over London. It had no caption and represented simply the monstrous figure of a Eurasian soldier, 3 or 4 meters high, striding forward and expressionless. Mongolian face and enormous boots, a machine gun pointed from his hip. From whatever angle you look at the poster, the muzzle of a gun magnified by the foreshortening and seemed to be pointed straight at you. So there's a poster that we are going to talk about. That poster is of a Eurasian soldier, and he is shown to be having a Mongolian face and looks very monstrous, very big in size, and he's carrying a gun, and that gun is all the time pointing at you. So the fear of the enemy is created by such kind of posters most of the time, so that the people may not question what possibility of the government's power, fear, everything can be there, and the fear may be generated. Because of that fear, the people may be killed or whatever the case may be. And so, sometime the little bombs or the blast happen, and those are being talked about by the writer, because the fear is in the bomb also, the fear is in the Eurasian soldier also. That is why this paragraph connects with the lost with the help of the fear. Let's read it and see. One fell in a crowded film theater, and Stephanie, burying several hundred victims among the ruins, the whole population of the neighborhood turned out a long trailing funeral which went on for hours and was in effect on indignation, meaning another bomb fell on the piece of waste ground which was used as playground, and several dozen children were blown to pieces. There were further angry demonstrations. Goldstein was buried in effigy. Hundreds of copies of the poster of Eurasian soldiers were torn, etc., etc. And the people, some of the old people who were suspected of being foreign extraction at their house, set on fire and perished, and in that way, a lot of suffocation. So it's a kind of modern bomb blast, the terrorist act, that in the eye of the people is a terrorist act. That number of bombs fall here and there, especially at those places where the population is busy in enjoying or in other activities. For example, cinema, movie, theater, etc. are the target, and then the playgrounds where maximum number of children could be possibly there. So such a thing is happening inside the state. These things happen in the warlike states, these things happen in the totalitarian states, and these things continue to happen in the states where the people want to create fear in the mind of the masses, so that justification of the fighting of the wars may be created. So the writer is now trying to tell us the situation can possibly happen where the fear is being generated. So after doing all that, the same fear is turned to an other situation, which is a romantic situation, but the fear is present there. For example, Mr. Charrington's shop, where upper room is hired by Julia and Winston to stay there, that will be talked about here, and let's see what kind of fear is there. Mr. Charrington thought Winston was another extinct animal. The very first opening sentence says that he was an extinct animal, because the behavior of Mr. Smith, as is being seen by Sherrington, was the behavior of an animal who long ago disappeared. And the people remember what type of behavior of that person used to be. This is the same behavior of Mr. Vincent Smith, that he's trying to behave in a different way, and that is why he says that he's going to have a very bad type of end, that this is being visualized him, that he's already extinct. Extinct means that person, that thing, that animal which has disappeared. And here, if we continue with the paragraph about Shanton, he says he's led a ghost-like existence between the tiny dark shop and an even teenier back kitchen where he prepared his meals, and which contained, among other things, an unbelievably ancient gramophone with an enormous horn. He seemed glad of the opportunity to talk, wandering about among his worthless stock and his long nose and thick spectacles and his bowed soldier in the velvet jacket. He had always vaguely the air of being a collector rather than a tradesman. So it's the power of description of the writer that he draws a sketch of the character Sharmington. According to him, he was an old-looking person. His appearance was old, and he always was keeping the old things with him. And the way he lived, it appeared to be even older. So up to some extent, he appeared to be a type of funny person as well, because he's got the long nose and he had a thick spectacle on that nose, and in that way, he had a kind of appearance. That may not be important, but the characterization, a type of characterization introduced by the writer, probably to provide another character. We can see that every chapter introduces to us some new character, and the details about that character continue to come. And here is Sharmington, right? So in that way, the story keeps on going on. Julia and Vincent Smith keep on meeting in that very room which is provided by Sharmington on rent basis. And so there are some other things which about the party and about other things keep on happening. And Julia thinks that it's not the real thing. She was For example, the last line here we can read, she says, what doctrines she was supposed to represent. She had grown up since the revolution, was too young to remember the ideological battles of the 50s and 60s. It has become a habit of number of people to follow the propaganda of the state instead of having their own mind. So that is why Julia even didn't remember what she was doing, why she was doing. And about this propaganda, here is a paragraph. It says, once when he happened in some connection to mention the war against Eurasia, she started him by saying casually that in her opinion the war was not happening. The rocket bombs which fell daily in London were probably fired by the government of Oceania itself just to keep people frightened. This was an idea that had literally never occurred to him. She also stirred a sort of envy in him by telling him that during the 2 minutes hate, her great difficulty was to avoid busting or laughing. So that's the view of Julia about all the thing going on. She understands everything, and according to her, she could present one of the opinion that these rocket bombs which fell on the people, these were thrown by the government itself, not by the enemy. So she said this, and as a result, she was noticed that she can talk such a thing. And again, she talked about that 2 minutes hate when she was celebrating. At that time, it was very difficult for her to control her laughter. So these two things point out the thinking or the style of this girl, that apparently she was following the party propaganda, but she was not in reality following that. She was taking it on the surface level, and probably she laughed at this kind of behavior. So it means anybody who could think, anybody who could understand, that person knew the reality of the whole propaganda. But the common people who were unable to pay attention to these things, they were being duped, and a lot of fear was created in the mind of those people. So the basic purpose was fear, but some of the people who know this kind of thing, they were not fearful, rather they were laughing, cutting joke at the propaganda kind of thing which was introduced to them. So in that way, Julia's thinking comes before us when we read this type of paragraph. And now something about the revolution which possibly may come but may not come as well. We have already discussed a lot about this revolution thing. A few people possibly are trying to do this revolution but couldn't come. For example, here, she knew when to cheer and when to boo, and that was all one needed. If he persisted in talking of such subjects, she had a disconcerting habit of falling asleep. She was one of those people who can go to sleep at any hour and in any position. So, more characteristics of Julia forward come to us, that she had an understanding. What was the time when she should cry, when she should be happy, or when she should jeer at the people or cut joke at the people? She know that. And if somebody continued to insist on her to listen to her, at that time she had a habit of falling asleep. So this unique characteristic of this girl are being repeated to us, and we therefore can formulate a lot of characterization of this one. So this chapter is over. Next time chapter number 6 may be talked about, but so far this chapter over. So thank you for watching. Hopefully you have got something out of it, a few things about character of Siam, then the propaganda party, and Julia's more characteristics that we have discussed in detail in this chapter. So here the chapter ends, and hopefully we shall be talking about some new chapter. Thank you for watching. If you have understood something out of it, benefited from it, do not fail to hit the like button or subscribe button. So far, bye bye till the next video.